consider yourself a boomer?
I'm not, but I come
Yeah.
across as a boomer. Like
What?
I was raised in New England's very old school, and yeah, technically Gen X, but
Yeah, you're the X, man.
we can talk about that too.
Oh man, did you
All
read
right.
that? Oh wait, who was the artist on there? Chris
Chris Bachalo.
Bachala.
Yeah,
Yeah. Oh
yeah. It's
man,
cool. I know a lot of those guys now, and
yeah.
yeah, we'll talk about that later. All right, so this is my friend Chris Fequiere. Am I pronouncing that right?
Fake here,
How
so
do
nowhere
you how do
close.
you have a French last name, man?
It's Haitian Creole, man.
All
Ça
right.
passe, all that.
How's your French?
Oh, I was gonna say terrible, which is like the French for terrible, but it's like it's too close to English to be like, ooh, he knows French. It's like,
Right, yeah.
uh,
No.
aren't you like part French? You did your 23andMe. You're like quarter.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I thought I was like mostly Irish immigrant, but it turned out I'm heavily French as well,
yeah.
with a little bit of Native American. Like,
Oh, there you go.
however, my wife is the
Elizabeth
rare.
Warren over here.
But my wife is 0% Native American. She's the whitest McGee you could possibly be, and she acts like it too. You know her.
I did my 23andMe. I'm 20% Spanish European.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Nice. That explains why you get along with white people so much.
That 20%? Yeah,
I'm your 20% white friend.
There you go. 20%.
So I've known Chris for like 10 years now,
Oh, yeah, man.
maybe more.
Crazy.
He's one of my favorite people, one of my best friends. No one makes me laugh like him. He was in my wedding. He knew me back when I was doing Hellblazer. He was an
Hellblazer.
SVA grad.
Wow.
We used to have a mutual friend named Rob, who's from Australia. So the three of us were like a pretty tight crew, and we got drunk around Brooklyn and New York a lot. And yeah. And so for Curse of the White Knight, I reached out to Chris. He was actually over here visiting. In between getting drunk, hanging out in the hot tub, and hitting strip clubs, we decided it would be a good idea to do some work. And he's a huge fan of like pixel animation, just like I am. And he's been doing these animations for his thing called Burning Rubber, which is Handball.
Yeah, man. New York City, Handball.
The phrase doesn't exist outside of New York, does it?
I mean, it's actually growing. I mean, now that the quarantine's happening, it's been laying low. But I mean, there's so many courts that have like opened up. Some in New England, actually, a lot like in Boston. Like they just had a outdoor court open. I think maybe in Connecticut as well. So yeah, it might be the premier like urban sport. So watch out for it.
No, I love it. Do you think I'd be naturally good at it or no? I mean, I have no rhythm.
You know what? Like the body types for handball are everywhere. So I actually think the like short and quick are like the guys who can like, it's really like compact tennis.
Yeah.
So it's like you kind of have to like manage the court, and I think big guys have a slight disadvantage because it's such a small space.
Right. Yeah. I can't just manhandle the ball and like power serve my way through it.
I mean, listen, like some of the legends are like the big people. We have Kadeem Bush, who won King of the Court, and then Joe Durso, who's like an old time legend, is a pretty big guy. So
nice.
I mean, some of the legends are on the taller end. So
you're geeking out on athletes. This is so much of a deep cut. You're talking. Even most New Yorkers don't even know this stuff.
It's true. And it's so interesting because, I'm like full on nerd, and like sports has never been my thing, but like handball, I just love it.
Yeah. No, it's crazy, man. Because like, I think maybe one of the reasons we got along so well so early was because, we like a lot of the same things like 90s X-Men cartoons and Batman. But we code as normal. I'm nerdy on the inside, but you'd have to probably talk to me for a while before I would reveal that to you. And you seem like another dude. You're a great wingman. Just another good guy to go out and smoke cigars with and get drunk. And you just didn't seem like the type of person that was into comics. So I think that's why we clicked so quickly.
Yeah, I guess there's always a time to geek out, like you I mean, it's our passion. So like, we don't really have to press it so much.
Yeah.
So I feel like that's kind of like where that energy comes from.
Yeah. Yeah, man, I think so. So how did we decide to do these pixel animations? I can't remember between hot tubs.
Oh man.
Lap dances when we thought it would be a good idea.
I do remember. So you showed me some of the artwork, and I was super duper excited. And I was like just like restarting my Instagram, like a separate personal thing. And I was just like, man, what would be really cool is like a nice little pixel trailer for Curse of the White Knight. So I did like this like crazy like Excalibur kind of Azrael sword.
Yeah.
Then he walks out and he like flashes it. I was like, oh, this is gonna be dope. So,
no, man, even the shape of the sword flare, like that stuff's such an art form. And I've never given another artist so little and had them deliver so much. Like it was insane. It's like you're in my head, man.
I mean, when you like the same things, like that's the best part of working with someone who like really, you guys have the same like passions. Like you just understand what makes like what you love and like what makes something like really awesome and cool.
Yeah.
And this is like, like the nostalgia and like the awesome factor. That's what I geek out over. I'm just like, oh, the fucking flames.
So you were here and we storyboarded 4 mini episodes. And by the way, we'll put a link where you can click on these and go see what Chris did. What we're talking about is, I didn't actually explain the context. We had Curse of the White Knight was coming out. I wanted to do something unique. It's hard to break through the white noise of comics and marketing. So I thought, what about like a pixel art cutscene from like Nintendo era or Super Nintendo type of style, which is totally your jam. And you were staying here and I have a studio with 2 desks. So you sat down and you started showing me some stuff and I'm like, man, this is cool. So I hit up DC, like, do we have anything in the budget for advertising and doing pixel art? And they're like, what does pixel art have to do with 1666 Gotham City? And I'm like, nothing. I'm like, well, there's kind of, it's a Castlevania vibe. And we love that game and games like it. So I'm like, well, maybe there is crossover. So I ended up just paying you out of my own pocket. And every time I tweeted, I'm like, thank you, DC, for helping us advertise. Like I gave them credit even though they didn't do shit. And I'm pretty sure other creators were like, hey, DC, how come you paid for Sean's 8-bit pixel animation episodes? You didn't give me shit. And they had to be like, well, Sean's a liar and he actually paid for it by himself.
Yeah, man, but like that's the crazy thing about like, marketing and advertising. Like, in your gut, you have that instinct of what works. And sometimes people can't see it. And like, you're like, but I know I love these things. So, I've kind of made a career of like staying on the path of what I love. So, this feels right. So, we're going to go through this avenue and like execute this idea. And you know what, at the end of the day, I love it. So, screw it.
Yeah. And it was invigorating for me to get these things animated. I'm like, oh my God, the way that he like animated the ship with the lightning or whatever it was, it's like, I want to play this game. Like, fuck the comic. I want to go right to the Curse of the White Knight video game. Especially that I was really excited about the episode. And these are only like a minute long, but he did an episode where Bakar and Edmund are like traveling through the map, and it's like a Castlevania map. And
Castlevania, man.
Yeah. So were you more into, what was the first pixel game that you remember resonating with you?
Oh man, well, so I had, I grew, arcades were huge when we were kids. So, we were playing things like the X-Men arcade system, Ninja Turtles, like those big console kind of like, sorry.
Yeah.
It's my little guy. Hey, Bubba.
Hey. How you doing, man?
Can you say hello? He's getting his iPad.
This is what happens with quarantine.
I just totally forgot about that. This is normal, but like
that's all right. Yeah.
The kid had to interrupt just for
Well, I should say now, Chris and his son are actually models, and I've seen them on TV. His son is a legit model, and then they cast Chris as his dad, which is really generous of them.
Oh yeah, with this face, this much.
Like I'm watching, I don't know what I'm watching here. I'm like, is that fucking Chris selling denim or whatever it was?
Yeah. The last commercial I did plug hashtag like Target.
That's what it was. Yeah.
It was for their Easter.
Hey man, Target paychecks. It's got to be pretty good, right?
It was nice, man. It was nice, but this one was kind of grimy because they chose me, and my son was not chosen because he was too old for the part. So it's like,
you know what? Don't tell him I said this, but fuck your son. We all know where the talent.
Dude, you know he got me my first gig. This is like the this is the Jay-Z of the modeling gang.
Screw that! I got you, Curse pixel art animation gig.
Look, kids, man, they don't care about anything. Like, I'm just like, look, dude, look at this, like, kind of like Batman thing I'm doing. He's like, but Pokemon, like,
yeah, it's not Pokemon, Dad.
It's like, come on, man, like Mewtwo, like, come on.
Yeah, it's weird. Like, I have friends who are, like Scott Snyder, and you think that the kids would be excited about Batman, and whatever the parent does, the kid just thinks it's lame. Yeah. I mean, if there's ever a bring your dad to school thing again, and Scott goes, like, the only way to beat that is like if your dad is Santa Claus,
It's like, what do I have to do? I know that there's like a time where it clicks, but now is not the time. Now I'm just like following him and trying to be. It sucks because you just can't be cool to your kids. Like,
no,
it's like, I don't get it. Like,
yeah. My colorist Matt Hollingsworth just did a video, and he was talking about his kid who's 9, and at age 9 is when it's starting to stick. They realize, like, oh, dad works from home. That's weird. Right. Not every parent has a dad, period. Or has a dad that works on colorful comic books or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And, the kid saw this cardboard model that I made of a spaceship. So he ran off and made his own model later that day, which is pretty sweet. Yeah, but I can see, like, at maybe age 9, he'll start to give a shit about you.
Oh, man. Hopefully. I mean, that's in 2 years, so I'm good. I can. It's close. It's coming in.
Yeah.
It's coming down the pipe.
You finally have the respect you deserve.
Oh yeah, for my 7-year-old. Now like we just like play Minecraft and stuff like that, which
nice. Yeah.
I'm actually kind of addicted to it now too. So it's
it's
scaring me. I love that.
Have you tried to get him to watch the old 90s X-Men stuff?
He's watching like older cartoons because with the Amazon and all those like Netflix, he can just binge watch all the shows. So right now he's heavy in the Pokemon.
Yeah.
Blade.
God, Pokemon is still around, man. Yeah. It's like 30 years, 20 years now.
That's a strong brand right there, man.
Were you ever into that shit?
Of course. What are you talking about? Sorry, boomer.
Hey, man. I was just too old to get into Power Rangers.
That's the cusp right there, man.
When Power Rangers hit, it's when I was starting getting my driver's license. I was going out, I was dating, I was getting laid. I don't fucking need Power Rangers anymore.
Oh man, no man, Power Rangers was the shit. Power Rangers, there was like Superhuman Samurai, all those like live action.
Yep.
But you were probably watching like Hercules and Xena, like that's the good stuff.
Fuck you, I actually really liked Hercules.
Oh, there you go. See?
The worst show.
That's the stuff, man. That's the good stuff.
No, man. I mean, like, mine was animated. So you have X-Men. I had Batman animated series, and it just hit me like a train. It was the right amount of like mature cartoon storytelling, and I sat down. I'm like, this is different than He-Man and Thundercats. This is I'm like, my brain was like, what is going on? Like, why do I care about Mr. Freeze, the bad guy? But that was X-Men for you?
Yeah. I mean, X-Men like sticks in my mind, but I think that era, because I think Batman was probably part of that era, right? Like most. I mean, that whole like Fox Kids, WB, like that battle that they were having for like Saturday morning cartoons was, all plus for us.
Yeah, it was a great time to be, because mid '90s too was when they were doing too much animation. And there was like Sky Surfer, Strike Force.
Oh yeah.
Biker Mice from Mars. And I'm not knocking these properties. They might, for all I know, friends of mine created them. But it just got a little too saturated. Even as a kid, I'm like, I'm just going to go play with my ball.
Yeah, it was crazy because it was just like you had to like, there was like this kind of waiting game in Saturday morning where it's like, 6 a.m., this is when this show was. But like, you had like this garbage like hour where you're just like not My Little Pony, like I don't know, like just random shows that you're just like. I mean, Wildcats was part of that, where it was like X-Men success. It was like, oh, Wildcats.
Wait, did Wildcats ever come out?
The cartoon, yeah, Wildcats.
I missed that. Because I kept seeing it in comics, thinking, and I had the NES, the Super Nintendo game. I don't remember the cartoon actually coming out.
Yeah, I think it was.
No, you're right. No, Youngblood never came out. That's what it was.
Oh my gosh, yeah, man, Youngblood. Yeah, see, Youngblood is like, it's sad because like I would go to like the 99-cent shop and like the only comics that were there were like all Youngblood and all this stuff, and I was like, yeah, they're $1, so you know, I would pick up like Youngblood and what else was like Cyber Squad, Cyberforce. There you go. Yeah. See, you know.
Yeah. Now, so Chris is like 9 years younger than me, so there is a bit of a delay.
The gap. But I mean, like, I just pick up where your childhood left off.
So this is when I really. So when I realized how different you and I were, I'm like, let's play Street Fighter, fool, and you're like, all right, I'll play you in Street Fighter. And I'm like, are you any good? And you're like, I've played before, which is code for I'm gonna rip your ass apart. And the last Street Fighter I played was Street Fighter 2 Turbo.
Oh yeah.
And I had no idea that you could do like 66-point combos. And you destroyed me like all over the screen. Like, what the fuck am I looking at? Like it's like playing on outer space. Yeah. And I wasn't mad because I was just mostly confused about how I missed 2 generations of Street Fighter, and then you just handed my ass to me. I
mean, I'm feeling it now because like, you know, kids are playing Fortnite, and like Fortnite, it's not just shooting, like you have to build as well. And like the dexterity to do that, I'm just like, nope. Just like, I'm not doing that. Like,
you would kill me at Halo. We used to do you're fighting each other, split screen on Halo. And Chris would like no scope the fuck out of me, and I've never screamed and raged and almost punched somebody who was a close friend as much as I have you. Like, I'm still a little bit mad at you.
Oh man, I forget. Do I still have the belt? Is that
you won the last time? So the last 3 times you came, I would get destroyed all weekend, and then the last game before I had to drop him off at the airport, I would just barely win.
Yeah, that pees me right now. Like, it's just like. Because it's like, you know, you're supposed to. I feel like now, like I might have an issue. It's like you're supposed to leave at a certain time, and when you overstayed your welcome, that's when you know. And Sean wins at Halo. You overstayed your welcome.
The way I would get you is if I had more than 2 kills in a row, you would start getting frustrated, and then you would start making mistakes.
Oh yeah.
Which is normally what I was doing wrong, because I don't know. And I would always ask you, like, how do you do this, man? How are you so fast? Like, you can control the toggle so carefully, and you just said, hey, man. You're just too old.
It's generational, man. Because these kids on like Call of Duty and Fortnite, it's like, oh damn, like I'm getting my ass kicked.
Yeah. Have you ever gotten beat up so bad in a new game where you take the high road and you're like, well, I'm busy like paying bills and gardening and buying a car, so I don't need to losers.
This is hilarious. So I'm playing like Smash Bros. Now on the Switch, and
I've heard of it.
it has like high level gameplay, and you know it's kind of like a party game, but it does have like a very serious like competitive crowd. Competitive people who play for money, and like the guys who I play with, they're like really good, and I'm like barely scratching the surface, and I'm just getting shit handed to me, and I'm just like, I barely play, but like deep down, I'm like, I suck really badly. I need to find a way to get better.
It's hard to imagine, man.
I find myself like watching like expert videos while I'm drawing.
No, that's the beginning of society. And like, we all go to bars and watch Fortnite for fun. I think that's when like Cyberdyne starts taking over and bombing the shit out of us.
Oh, dude, it's happening, man. We're using Zoom to communicate. It's over.
It's true, yeah. Oh man. One of my favorite stories with Chris goes back to Heroes Con. Had to be like 2008, and my Hellblazer come out. We're all sharing a hotel room. I don't know who was sleeping on the floor, and I I had an art dealer. I won't mention his name, but you remember he had too many drinks, and he's like, "There's an artist downstairs who is really jealous of Sean. I'm gonna go fuck with that artist." And I said, "Don't do it. Please don't do it. I don't need a thing. Like, my star was just rising. I know this guy. He's like 2 heads taller than me. Like, please don't throw me into some drama. Like, Hellblazer's coming out. I'm feeling good. Really don't need to start the night off this way." And he got like a really ugly look in his eye. And he just like, you could tell like he was just like sniper focused on this mission.
No.
So you, me, Rob, and this art dealer get in the elevator. I'm going down. And in my mind, I'm like, I can't let him do this. What am I going to do? I have to dive up. Maybe he'll forget. Maybe we'll get to the first floor. And so we get out of the elevator, we go to the lobby, and at Heroes Con, there's like a hotel that everybody stays in, a bar, and it is like the biggest drama con there is because there's like an auction the night before.
Oh yeah.
So all these artists are like, some of them are wearing Playboy robes, like Hugh Hefner.
The Hugh Hefner, yeah.
Yeah, some of them aren't. So it's like, why don't I have a robe? And then like Adam Hughes always gets the most for his shit because he's amazing. But then there's like number 2 is like, what do I have? What does Adam have that I don't? So you take all that aggression, throw it in one bar, and get them drunk, and that's what we're walking into. And we start walking through the crowd, and I see this art dealer. He sees this artist, and I'm just like, he's so. We're getting closer and closer. I'm like, I can't shove him. I can't punch him. I can't. Like, the artist is gonna see, and then he's gonna see me, and this guy like is mad because he feels like he's being forgotten and like guys like me are taking over or something like that. So Paulo, I said his name, whatever. Fuck it. Whatever. He beelines for this artist, and the artist is busy talking, and you can tell the way he's talking, he's already drunk and he's angry and he's like gesticulating, and there's like 10 people, and I'm standing behind my art dealer, like, how do I shut this down? And the minute that this art dealer steps into this artist, the artist is like, he's holding a beer. He's like, fuck you. Like, he had some kind of story with my art dealer that I did not know about. So I'm like, what happened that I don't know about? How do I fix this? And as the art dealer starts to be like, hey, asshole, here's a guy that you want to meet, I'm like, and then someone grabs my shoulder.
Pull you out of there, man.
Before I know it, we're on the street walking through Charlotte to a bar. And I am so glad that you were there to whisk me away in that moment, because that would not have been fun.
Yeah, man. I mean, it was like, first of all, it was like the biggest con that I had ever been to. And I was just like, man, like who wants to like start off their career, like getting into a petty fight with these guys, and I could feel like the tension of like, you definitely didn't want to do it, and like, no. But everyone was drunk, everyone was excited, and like tensions can flare, and it was just like, oh, we did not need that. We were just gonna have fun and like. Yeah,
that was great. I remember driving down because you had never left New York.
First time in the South.
So we went to the South, and your face is in the back, pressed against the window, like, this is where they keep the rest of the black people.
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah.
I was a baby, had not left New York City, like, ever. So this is first time in the South. I was like, let's see, like, how crazy it is down here in North Carolina.
Right.
Charlotte.
Wait, so we hit 2 gas stations that day.
Oh, my gosh.
Was I walked in by myself, white guy.
No.
I pay for gas, and there's a bunch of knives next to the Tic Tacs, and some of the knives are like Hitler youth knives that have literally swastikas on them.
Yep.
And I'm looking down, like, am I really seeing this? Like, who the fuck is? I mean, we're south of Virginia, so I guess that's when it becomes okay to sell that stuff.
Oh,
and the guy is like, he's friendly to me, so he's super cool to me, and then you walk in, and then he is not super cool to you. Like, he wasn't rude and didn't tell you to leave or anything, but there was a divide there.
And I was just like, hey,
I was hoping that you
this? I was like,
dude, let's go.
Like, they're just out in the open like this. It's just like,
and that's when I grabbed you, and I'm like, nope.
And I'm looking at the guy, and it's just hilarious. And it's like, this is just out. Like, it's like when you go to like these like gift shops, usually they're selling like license plates and like with your name on it.
Yeah.
But this guy has Hitler Youth Night out on display.
There it is. Yeah, not even,
like
we're on 95 South.
Yes,
we weren't
exactly.
even we were like 5
That's
minutes
exactly
off
what I
of
was
the
gonna
main
say.
highway.
It wasn't that far off the highway.
Man, you should have bought one.
Usually where you can get like Wendy's, Burger King, they're all in like that conglomerate.
Yeah.
Just like
yeah, you'd think like, all right, so black people, because I think there was a couple fast food places. You would imagine that it would be relatively safe, and like 100 yards down the way where the Spanish mosque starts and the rednecks are, that would be a bad place to go. But no, right in this fucking gas station.
Oh my gosh, it was so surprising. I was like, this is hilarious. Like,
so we get back, and I went to school in Savannah, so I knew a little bit about the culture. And Savannah is like 70% black. And I lived in Bed-Stuy too. Like, I obviously being a white guy in this country is mostly easy. I have had a little bit of like being the only white guy in black neighborhoods a couple of times, so that's as much as I can relate to you.
No worries, Eminem.
Okay, basically the same, right? So I was trying to tell you, like, hey man, I don't need to sound crazy, but you really should be careful. And like, next time you see a Hitler Youth Night, don't walk up to it and pick it up.
I mean, it was just so brazen that I was like, did he not want me to interact with it? Like, were we all just gonna ignore the fact that he had?
Yeah.
It? So maybe next time he'll just be like, maybe he didn't get that many black people.
Right. So the next gas station we went to, remember this?
Oh, that was was like some country shit.
Right. But it was 2 a.m. We had to stop and get food, and they had
we were hungry as hell.
Great food. They have all black people inside. They happened to have fried chicken, which was amazing.
Yes.
I didn't. So you go in first. I'm just pumping the car up with gas. I don't know that there's mostly black people in there. I don't care. So I go in and I'm like, where's Chris? Where's Chris? And usually it's easy to find you. It's like, there's the black guy with all the other white guys in the South.
Yeah.
And now it's like black. I'm like, oh my God. So I finally see one face that's grinning with a shit-eating grin. Like, you're in my gas station now.
Oh, fucking like, what's that with Tom Hanks? I'm the captain now.
And I remember I shuffled in behind you, put my head down, like I'm just gonna keep my head down, and and you were down with everybody, and it was great. But the one way I got to fuck with you back was there was a guy at the cash register who had a disability, and he had very short, tiny arms. And I said to you, like, when you pay for your food, when you pay for food or gas, don't think about a T-Rex. And you're like, what? And then you go up and you're just like, because the way that he was typing, remember that?
It was so, but like, you have to remember, like, we were in, first time in the South, and we get to like this like really podunk gas station. Yeah. And it's kind of packed, like for like 2 in the morning. It's
2 a.m.
It seemed like the place to be. But there was, it was full of characters. Like, there was definitely like a Senegalese man who was also behind the register. And then there was the guy with the disability, but both those guys were like, what's that? Of Mice and Men. Like, it was like, like these characters. I was just like, whoa, the South is crazy with characters, man.
And you're the one that got food, and I'm like, fuck it, we're here. And we ate dinner on the hood of the car outside, and it was really tasty. Honestly, I remember marking it on my phone thinking we should stop here on the way back.
North Carolina.
We just sent Chris in to get our food.
Food has been delicious. Like, my son was actually born in North Carolina, so that's where his
really?
His grandparents live there now. So I've been there so many times, which is like crazy to think that I'd be traveling back and forth between there. With all these episodes. So.
Oh man, so he's more Southern than you are at this point, then, huh?
Not really.
Right.
More well traveled, definitely. He's been he's been around the nation way more earlier than I.
Right. So I do have a question for you. I was thinking of this the other day, and I was playing Assassin's Creed, and I think it was number 4. And there's these side games you can play, and one of them is you can be this black dude who's an assassin. He's awesome, muscular and fit, whatever. And his job is to go around saving slaves. Wow. And it felt really weird for me to be like traveling through these worlds, and I would accidentally push up against like a red coat or something, and they would not be happy, and they would just start chasing me. The minute I would start saving black people, everyone would get mad at me.
Yeah.
I love that they did that. And the game is 7 years old.
Yeah.
And I'm like, man, this is amazing. Like, this is such a good experience for some idiot like me to be like, oh yeah, I guess it is kind of a different world. But I was curious for you, like growing up on X-Men and stuff, I'm like, or Batman or whatever. I mean, did it ever phase you? It's like, none of these characters look like me. I guess I'm still a Batman fan.
You know, that's so interesting because like not until like recently and having a kid did it like really dawn on me like the effect that seeing like what your like childhood heroes can have on you. Like, you know, I took my son to go see, you know, Spider-Man into the Spider-Verse, and like this, you know, for him to have a character that he can like 100% vibe with, like that it's crazy. Just like, you know, as a dad, like it just choked me out because I was like, oh wow, it's crazy. Like I mean, I loved X-Men. And even X-Men, you know, was kind of like a commentary on race relations in America. Like you had like these group of people who just were treated differently because of like, you know, power and stuff like that. So, I mean, that's probably why I kind of gravitated towards X-Men first before Batman. But like having characters like that, like, I mean, it kind of it gives you a sort of escapism, you know, like you just, you know, you see these characters and you just like, you know, like Wolverine, like this guy who doesn't take any shit, like, come on. And he's like, it's funny because Wolverine is like, you kind of really didn't know what Wolverine was. Like, I was just like, I don't know what this guy is, but he's like this animalistic dude who just like kicks ass. I mean, that's pretty dope. Like, that's awesome. It's a really cool character.
Did you were into, what other anime did we bond over? Cowboy Bebop, obviously.
Oh, yeah, man.
You got me into Samurai Champloo, which is incredible.
Oh, so good, so good. And I mean, like, there's still obscure stuff like Gurren Lagann and like.
It's the scene I never forget with like the forever.
Oh, the sword, like
keeps pulling it out.
Such a good like.
Is it?
It is, because it's making what it is that it's making fun of itself, and that's like the best part, because you're just like, he's pulling out the sword and you're like, oh, this is the pull out the sword scene, but it keeps going, so it like, you know, subverts the whole like, and you're like, oh, this is ridiculous, this is awesome, this is hilarious, I love it.
I'm not convinced. So I know that a lot of anime companies will blow their budget on the pilot and the first few episodes, and then they'll start to pull back on spending for episode 3, 4, and 5. So people told me, oh yeah, Gurren Lagann is making fun of that. That's why episode 4 looks like shit. It's because that's the point they were making. And I'm like, I don't know.
I don't think so.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I don't think so. I mean, I think I've read some stuff where they were just like, yeah, they had the director in there for a second, and then they were just like, yeah, not again. Like, the guys who did that was Studio. I think that might have been Gainax. Those are the guys who did Evangelion.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So that, you know, they were known for doing some good animation, but it's like, you know, when that stuff happens, like, you know, when like growing up when we used to watch Dragon Ball, there would be those episodes that are just like dog shit. You're like, oh my god. And as a kid, you never realize it because you're just like, well, this doesn't look right, and like they have repeating backgrounds and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Like, oh, it's so crazy.
No, man, it's crazy. Like going back and trying to watch, you know, He-Man, it's like, this is terrible.
Ooh. Yeah.
Thundercats is a little better. Batman holds up just fine, which is nice. But yeah, it's funny. Like as a kid, the first time that you realize that doesn't look right, what are they doing to me?
Yeah, it's like, what's happening? Why are they dropping the ball? And like, shout out to your guys' podcast. If you guys like reviewing like all the episodes and like going into the lore of like things about like what happened in each episode as far as like storytelling and budget wise, it's like. It's really good to let people know, like, you know, animation, you know, there's a lot of hands touching this production. So, I mean, they got to get the thing out there. Yeah.
You know, what I love too is like the history. There's a great YouTube channel called The Games Historian. And it's this guy who's just doing it for years. And he goes deep dive into like the fight over Tetris. And here's why Crash Bandicoot works so well. And it's the story of people who are like, blue-collar guys and girls who are like, I don't know, they told me I had 3 months to make a game, so I made ET, and it sucks, or whatever, you know? At the end of the day, it's just the story of people, and the shit that they worry about and get tanked by, and the suits come in and, you know, fire. I'm like, that happens everywhere.
Yeah. It's funny. The series that that I worked on during the winter is about like video games, like the guys who created Doom, the guys who created Sonic. So that's gonna come out on Netflix soon. High Score. So that's gonna be like pretty cool. Like as far as like learning about all those like inner working stories about like.
Do you have like a game designer that you would, if you could take one guy out to dinner, who you would hang out with?
Oh man,
like who's your Robert De Niro of video games?
Yeah, that's hard, man. Like
who's your Ice-T of video games?
I mean, like the first person who I immediately think of like Hideo Kojima, like you know, he did Metal Gear. Like that was like the first game I was like, wow, like video games are you know, legendary. They can like really like make you feel a certain way about something. I mean, now like I like I'm like more into like the hand drawn games now. So like there's these guys who did Indivisible, and they did like Skull Girls and all that stuff. Alex did the design for that. Like just meeting any of those guys, like that'd be crazy.
Yeah.
Like meeting up with like Joe, like seeing like how he transitioned from comics to what is it, Night War? Battle Chases Night War, like doing those games. And,
Joe Mad, Joe Mad, You know, because I met him briefly, and like we conversed online, and when I saw him at a show, and I'm like, hey, I'm Sean. I should have said my full name because then it would have like. So he's like, yeah, hey, you know, so he just thought I was some guy, which is fine. I mean, we're all busy. But I definitely want to eventually reach out and pick his brain and ask, like, what mistakes did you make? If you wanted to make an 8-bit or 16-bit pixel art game, like, what can you tell me? What do I need to do? Like, if I just want to do a Steam game, like, I don't want to do Battle Chasers or anything that crazy. And I have yet to reach out to him, but I should.
Yeah, I mean, like, so with our project, I was already starting to do things on Instagram, and I like Instagram because they give you like, you know, kind of like a short time frame to kind of get your message across. So I was just like, it'd be really cool to like, you know, do like these minute-bit trailers and you know, with you know, doing it with the Batman White Knight, like us coming together and both loving like 8-bit animations. Like it was like the perfect platform to like deliver these things, and you can see it in the comments. People are like go apeshit over it. They want to play the game, and like I mean that's kind of like how we designed it, just so people can like kind of feel like what the game would play like. So
right. Well, I've said this to you before. Like when I quit comics one day, I kind of have this fantasy of putting together a pixel art game. And I talked to you a lot about it. I talked to my friend Will Sliney in Ireland, who's also into this kind of thing. If you watch like that documentary Indie Gamer, you know, these kids in their basements are no more qualified than we are. At least I have funding. I could start crowdfunding and at least like, here's a comic that we're going to, so bam, I have like, you know, $500,000 to throw at you. Like, let's do it. Like, even if we lose our shirt, why not? I just always zeroed in on the pixel art animation. There's something about the broken down pixelation that your imagination fills in the rest of it, you know?
Yeah, I really love that part. And it's kind of like, I mean, this is like fine art school kind of stuff, but it's kind of like impressionism in the way that like, you know, Van Gogh's like dots kind of make this bigger image, and pixel, I mean, and there's so many different pixel artists, but it's just so like interesting just to be like, you know, I have like this really detailed design, but like you just almost get the essence of it with just these blocks. And it's like, no, that's it. Like, that's all of it right there.
Yeah. Like the less is more appeals to me. Like I think Assassin's Creed is amazing, but it's trying so hard to be photorealistic where it's like, I know I'm watching a movie, but when I play games that have like Streets of Rage, which just came out, it just transports you, and it's more imaginative and it's more real than real in a way, you know? And, you know, these days, all we need is like 6 people and funding and a manager. And, you know, back in the 90s when we created games like Flashback, my favorite, you had like, you know, 200 people on salary with benefits. Now we can do that shit for,
It's crazy. Yeah. And like, I think like they put so much to making it real that, like you said, like it just, there's nothing left to the imagination. So you're not really bringing anything else to the game besides playing it.
Yeah.
And, you know, sometimes that gets competitive and stuff like that. And it's like, they have legendary, competitions for like Mega Man and all these games that people still play to this day just because of like, part of it, you know?
No, I don't think pixel games are going away because we're consuming them on phones and small screens. So it's kind of, it's not just nostalgic, it's practical at this point.
Right, yeah.
And, you know, Minecraft is just that, even more broken down. So I don't think this is a fad that's going to die anytime soon.
Yeah, and you proof in Minecraft, like that thing is just, there's so many YouTubers who are just like, on their Twitch, just like streaming this over and over again. It's crazy.
Yeah.
And they also have replayability that like games nowadays don't really have. Like you can go back and still play Castlevania and still play these games, and they're kind of made for that. Because you know, you most of the time you died and there was no save point, so you had to start all over again. So it's like, well, they couldn't make a game that you got tired of, or else like you wouldn't play it again. And, like replayability was like huge part of the game.
Yeah. I like when they came up with the idea in new games, like as long as you get your character away and rest, your energy will go all the way back up. You don't have to find chickens and pizzas anymore. Like the point of the game, like you're all going to beat it eventually. Like I like when they figured that out. But you know, so when I beat Assassin's Creed on my Switch the other day, it's like 45 minutes of credits before the game would stop. Because you could go back to roaming the world, but you have to get through the fucking credits. So I go back and check. I'm like, and every single name, like how much is anybody, I know the game brings in millions of dollars, but how much is anybody really making when you have 45 minutes of names to pay? It's just, you know, so I just like the idea of doing a small pixel game. So the reason we're talking about this is because with Plot Holes, I own it. And my thought to you was, if you want to make like a playable demo, I don't know where this IP is headed for in the future, but it would be pretty cool if there was something to get it started if you were interested in it.
Oh yeah, man, that'd be dope. And it's like perfect for it because different worlds and things like that would be phenomenal. Perfect.
Yeah. Someone said it was toyetic, which is a new word that I learned from Toys That Made Us.
Yeah. Well, dude, I mean, like,
it's funny.
That's how cartoons were made back in the day. They were made to sell the toys. It wasn't like they were just like, let's make cartoons for people. Like nowadays, people make cartoons just for entertainment, but back in the day, it was to sell merchandise. So
let's change people's minds with He-Man. No, let's sell toys with He-Man, and maybe we'll get an episode that's decent.
Which is crazy. It's like storytelling as an afterthought is kind of insane with like content, the way that content works these days, because it's all about the story, you know, like tell me the story. Is it compelling? You know, like if it's really not, like then I really don't want a part of it.
It's funny. I'm getting a lot of some people are not into my the Plot Holes. Like they don't like the title, and they think it's like they're not sure what to make of it. And in my head, it's like this isn't that different than Guardians of the Galaxy, really. But I think that people expected me to do like Wildcats or Youngblood. Like, give us your team where you have like the girl with big tits and the guy with the gun and whatever. Like, and I'm like sort of surprised, but not surprised in a way. Do something unusual and creative. I don't know. So I don't really know where I'm going.
I mean, like, no, but I mean, like, to your point, like, that's why we like partnered up to do like the pixel art, like kind of trailers. Cause it's just like, you know, you got to do what, you know, you're passionate about. Like, and people, I mean, the market's so huge. People who find it and love it will love it. People who don't like it, like, you know, I'm sure there's another bunch of things in my catalog that you can enjoy again. You know, like,
I remember when Guardians was announced, I'm like, who gives a shit about the Guardians of the Galaxy? Like, this is stupid. Why are they spending all this money on it? Or X-Men First Class, like, fucking Hugh Jackman isn't in it. I don't want to see, like, all right, Kevin Bacon, like, this is going to be terrible. Those are like my two favorite superhero movies, or top 10, whatever.
It's funny because I actually had no idea who the Guardians of the Galaxy were before seeing that movie, and I was just like,
this is I honestly I didn't either, man.
And so I was just like, well, I mean, the guys up there in marketing, I guess, know a little something that we don't know.
Yeah, that must have been a fun meeting where they're like, we want to do Iron Man, obviously. We want to do Thor. Yeah, I want to do this, want to do that. We want to do Guardians of the Galaxy. They're like, how much is that going to cost? One of these guys is a talking squirrel? I don't know, man.
Oh, yeah. And oh my gosh, like.
And it's going to tie everything together to our giant like event movie.
Yeah.
Where they're all going to fight. Like, what? Really? The talking squirrel is going to get us there?
That was insane. Like having Groot and Rocket Raccoon, having like two characters who may not hold up 10 years from now is kind of insane.
Yeah. No, but they are. I mean, you can't sell fun singing planters out of any other character except for Groot. So, boom.
This is true. Even every cactus you have in your house is Groot.
I know, man. Oh, man. What else is there? Did we kind of hit on everything?
Yeah, well, I mean, congratulations on the book, man. Like, this is.
Oh, thanks, man.
This is pretty cool. Like, so, like, I mean, if I can ask you some questions, like, when was the first, like, inkling of this idea that you wanted to get out of your head?
It was about actually 8 years ago. I wrote a script for an artist, a friend of ours, who I'll tell you who it is later. And he was like, nah, not for me. And I think it was because it was too challenging. I was writing a script where he'd have to draw an anime character and a comic strip character. And he had a script offer from Brian Wood, which never panned out. So I don't blame him for that. But I'm like, man, I think this is a really unique idea where like a comic book character is thrust into the situation. And I really wanted to tackle it because each character on the team is sort of like a different side of my art. Like I love manga and speed lines and that shit. So there's like manga character. I love the barbarian because it's like macho and masculine, and my line work is very stiff and edgy and rugged, you know.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm trying to do my own or be weird.
It's all good, man.
And then you have the comic strip side where, because I try to inject humor in there. You have the Victorian assassin, which is like Castlevania, which, you know, of course we love.
Yeah,
and
backgrounds.
I feel like this looks like some weird idea that I just threw together, but I'm like, no, a psychologist could do a deep dive on this. And especially since the main character is kind of like a version of me from off-road that's now diving in and like having to work with these heroes of his dreams. And he's worried that they're going to know that he's just full of shit, like a wimpy comic book creator, you know. And, you know me pretty well. Like, you know, I have a hard time like telling people I draw comics sometimes because in my mind it's still nerdy and I don't want people to know about it. So I think that there's a lot of psychology going on. Yeah. Like I read comics behind a real book. Like I was ashamed when people read comics.
The Stranger Things kind of era.
Yeah. Like
under the covers
Ricardo, who works for Marvel, is like, what do you mean, man? I put that shit on my Tinder. Like I get laid because I did these things. Like, fuck you!
What was this? That's like, it's funny because it makes you think about like those kids who like, you know, they get caught up having relationships with their teachers, and you're always like, man, why isn't my teacher doing that back in like this grade and stuff like that? And it's just like, man, it's just a different era. And first of all, that's like child rape, so it's not cool.
There's always that.
Oh man. But yeah, so you had the idea, and like, what made you like shoot, like to actually get it done?
Well, I was actually going to leave DC 2 years ago to do it, and they're like, well, you know, you've had a lot of success. Scott wants you to work on Batman, so why don't we keep you here? And I said, all right, I'll do Batman, but I want to do my own as well. And I thought they would say no, and they said yeah. It ended up being White Knight. And then the book was so hot, I decided to do a sequel. So I got caught up in success, which, you know, not complaining at all. But my wife is on me to do this. She's like, are you going to do the plot holes? I really love that idea. It's so different, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, I don't know. Everyone wants to do Batman. I almost decided not to do plot holes and just do like a straight up like John Wick type story, because as a brand, as a genre, it's much more easy to like, okay, Sean's doing John Wick. Got it. Right, here's my money. But with plot holes, it's like, what? It's like manga and like, well, all right, dude, I guess you have enough goodwill. We'll back you. But this is kind of not what we were expecting. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, well, I mean, you know, already funded. Like, the proof is in the pudding, man. Like,
yeah, yeah. Now I have to draw it.
yeah, I mean,
So
like,
yeah.
do you think your readers really? Do you think like they really follow? Like, are they down with the process? Like, do you feel like they're just along for the ride and they're just like, whatever you produce is golden? Or do you think like they really do push back whenever you throw them anything of your work?
Sometimes, I mean, I think most of my readers are quiet and barely on Twitter. They know who I am. They see my stuff on the shelf and they buy it. I think the loud minority is the ones I see on social media, and most of them are great. They try to suck the political arguments in comics, and you know me, I'm a pretty much a classic liberal, but I try not to get involved with that shit because, I have tons of different types of people that read my comics, and DC needs me to run a clean slate here and sell Batman. And if I start mouthing off to whoever, it's just, it's stupid. So I try to stay out of that stuff. So I appreciate their passion. It is interesting. Like when I wanted to get into comics as a kid, I had Wizard magazine as my basis of like.
Oh, I remember Wizard. Come on,
yeah, right. I'm like, great, get into comics. Do one interview a year with Wizard. And my line is, and this pisses people off, but I don't care. My line is, Wizard magazine made comic artists look cool, and then Twitter came along and revealed the truth. Like, we're not cool. We're introverted. We say weird things. We're just humans, just like you guys are. And sorry, now that you see how the sausage is made,
That's so interesting. I mean, first of all, Wizard was like I used to love their covers. Like every month they'd come out, they'd have the guest artists. Like, that's crazy. Yeah. During that whole time, it was like really dope to be like, in my eyes, the comic book artist. It was like kicking ass.
I was like, I was 10 or 11, and I was in this club drawing comics in Drake, Massachusetts. And one of the guys went to a comic convention, which I'd never heard of. And he's like, yeah, I met Todd McFarlane. I'm like, fuck. Well, I was 9. I wouldn't say that. I was like, you met him? Like, that's crazy. Like, was he wearing a suit? And, like, I just imagine he's so successful. And the guy's like, no, he's walking around in socks. And he looked kind of grungy. And I know Todd now. And I'm sure my friend, he's not my friend anymore. Todd's my friend. But as a kid, I thought, but in Wizard, he looks so put together and tailored. And, they're like, Rob Liefeld wore T-shirts that looked like one of us, but it was at least like a clean T-shirt.
Yeah.
When I heard the reality of what people wore at shows, that's when the disenfranchisement started for me. It was like, oh, maybe comics isn't as glorious as I thought it would be. And it's been downhill from there.
Oh man, not even the rise of like the Marvel Cinematic Universe has changed your mind.
No, if a dime of that went into comics or went into Marvel, that'd be great. But they keep that shit separate for whatever reason,
It's funny because
spiritually, it's a lot more interesting now. Like, the movies and stuff. I mean, you can say Iron Man now. Like, we have friends who get laid because they draw Iron Man. Like, obviously, it's the best time ever to be drawing Iron Man. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No. I feel like, so many of those scripts are like the R&D of like, great stories. So, I think that comics, even with the current climate, and maybe it's just hard because, it was a little archaic where they were kind of, it felt like the only medium that was still like holding on to print. Cause like New York Times and all these guys are suffering badly because of online magazines, but like comics is like holding on for dear life. And something like this comes along and then we're all like digital comics and everyone's like still, gasping for air, and it's kind of weird.
Yeah. You think that, when big superhero movies come out, a publisher would have a comic to sell you that would somehow be familiar to what you just watched.
No.
But there's bad decisions made in all kinds of entertainment companies. What was I watching a documentary on, I don't know, The Thing maybe. And they paid a lot of money to make it, or maybe it was a small budget. But studio companies make movies all the time and then decide that they're just not going to market it.
Yeah.
Why the fuck do they? Like, that happens at the $1 billion level. Of course it happens in comics.
More often than not,
Yeah.
which is insane.
Yeah, right. That was my thing. My disenfranchisement was when I arrived and saw behind the curtain. I'm like, does anybody really know what they're doing here?
Wow.
Anybody have a degree in what they're like, in this sort of thing? Like, am I the only one that got the job I wanted?
Yeah.
You have a lot of people who drop out, like, I can't be an artist. I know, I'll be an intern. I know, I'll be an assistant. I know, listen, they kind of like fail their way up. And there's a lot of great people in there too, but I just can't help but notice, like, it's kind of like a flea market, and that's kind of why it works in a way,
Well, it's interesting because I mean, my first real insight into the organization was when I did an internship for Marvel and really got to see how books were made. And I mean, I guess because I grew up in New York, I had a job at 14, I understand what working and meeting deadlines were. So when I saw it, it was kind of interesting. I was like, oh, I don't want to be these guys who are chasing down money, scripts, grammatical errors and all that kind of stuff. It's crazy because it's so separated from what we as the artists think about comics, because it's such a creative medium. We're looking for inspirational characters, the artists, the writers talking about these stories. But you go into the office and it's just boots on the pavement.
Yeah. It's like, it seems like a glorious job, and it really is. Like, getting to work from home or animate from home and to do this, it really is a treat. And I wouldn't trade it for anything. But some people sneak in, and I don't know how they got here.
Reliability, man. I was just telling because I also teach animation at the MCC. So I was doing some lessons yesterday on Zoom or Thursday, and I'm telling my students, most of the time it's just be reliable. There's so much, I mean, there's so much crap out there that sometimes people just want to make sure that something gets done, and if you're that guy who can get things done on time, a lot of people are just gonna be you know what, he might be an asshole sometimes, but this guy gets the job done. It's we can't help ourselves, we need this to get done. And
exactly.
Wow.
I do see myself as more of a plumber with a pencil than I do an artiste. I just feel like it's a grind. It's a marathon, not a sprint. All those sophomoric expressions. Yeah, man. So actually, I got to cut us off because my battery's about to die.
Yeah, no worries, man.
But dude, thanks for chatting.
Of course,
it's good to see you again, and I can't wait till the pandemic ends so you can come back up and I can kick your ass in Halo again.
Oh yeah, because that's gonna happen.
Motherfucker.
Oh, we have this recorded, so now I'm just gonna meet you every time I win and just shove it in your face, remember that time where you're just kick your ass in Halo? It's that's not gonna happen.
I'm gonna secretly record every match, and I'm only gonna air the one where I beat you at the end, before I drop your ass off at the airport.
Just have a shot of me just sulking in the passenger seat,
Yeah, man. Well, next time you come up, you can we'll ride in my Datsun. I don't think you've seen the car yet, have you?
Yeah, man. We checked it. Oh, that
you're doing it. Okay.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
Remember, picked me up at the airport and we just fucking burned it on the
that's
highway.
what it was. Okay. I couldn't remember if it was my wife's car or mine.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, man. Listen, dude, it's good to see you. Let's talk in the future about talk soon about making a game out of plot holes or something.
Man. It's 7:00 right now, so everyone's cheering for the workers. So do they do that around where you guys are, or?
No, we don't give a shit about workers.
It's not a pandemic, and where are you again?
In Maine, we lost 50 people total so far. Yeah, you lose 2,000 a day, right?
I mean, people are always going into the hospital. It's insane. Yeah. I mean, I hear it's dropping off, but it's crazy. I mean, you just go outside and an empty New York City street is crazy. So
yeah, it's cool that we're hearing it live though, because I do miss the city. And
yeah, it's insane. They're going ham right now.
All right, man. Well, thanks for chatting.
All right, brother.
We'll do this again sometime.
Yeah, man. Talk to you soon.
All right, man. I miss you, bro. Take care. Bye.
Peace.